Level 1. The Entry Grand. The Yamaha GB1K is the brand's most accessible acoustic grand piano. Okay, that lid prop is doing a lot of heavy lifting right there. First introduced in the early 2000s as part of Yamaha's budget grand lineup, the GB1K is built in Indonesia and measures just 151 centimeters, making it one of the smallest acoustic grands on the market. The soundboard is spruce. The action is Yamaha's standard acoustic mechanism, and the cabinet is finished in a polished ebony that looks considerably more expensive than its price tag suggests. The tone is bright and slightly thin in the bass registers, a consequence of the short string length, but for a first acoustic grand in a living room or small studio, it delivers something no digital instrument can replicate: real hammers striking real strings. The GB1K typically sits in the $6,000 to $8,000 range new, and considerably less on the used market. It's the Squire of Yamaha's grand lineup, the point where the family begins.
Level 2. The Living Room Grand. The Yamaha GC1 is the brand's step-up entry, sitting at 161 centimeters. 10 centimeters longer than the GB1K, which sounds modest until you hear the difference in the low end. I don't know why 10 centimeters matters that much, but it does. Introduced as part of Yamaha's GC series, the GC1 is still manufactured in Asia, but uses a more carefully selected soundboard and benefits from slightly longer bass strings, which translates directly into more fundamental warmth. The action uses the same Yamaha acoustic mechanism, but is regulated to a tighter spec at the factory. The GC1 lands around $9,000 to $11,000 new. It became a fixture in small music schools and private studios throughout the 2000s, the piano a serious student practices on before a conservatory decides whether to keep them.
Level 3. The Professional Studio. Now this is where it starts getting serious. The Yamaha C1X is the first model in Yamaha's CX series, the line the brand considers its true professional range, and it measures 161 centimeters. The CX series was relaunched in 2016 with significant revisions to the soundboard, the action, and the stringing. The C1X uses a solid Sitka spruce soundboard with a tapered profile, thicker at the center and thinner at the edges, which gives it a more complex, singing resonance than the GC series. The hammers are made from higher density felt, and the entire action assembly is regulated to what Yamaha calls their standard for professional instruments. The C1X sits in the $16,000 to $19,000 range. At this level, you're buying an instrument that professional pianists and serious conservatory students actually consider for long-term ownership, not a stepping stone. Level 4. The Conservatory Standard. The Yamaha C3X. At 186 centimeters, this is the model that crosses a critical acoustic threshold, the point at which a grand piano's string length is long enough to produce a genuinely authoritative bass register. A quick warning though, once you play a C3X, going back to anything smaller starts to feel like a compromise. The C3X shares the CX series construction: tapered spruce soundboard, high-density hammer felt, Yamaha's professional action. But the additional body length gives the bass strings room to develop overtones that simply don't exist in smaller instruments. It was first introduced as the C3 in the 1980s and became the default workhorse of music schools and university practice rooms throughout the 1990s and 2000s. The CX revision in 2016 sharpened the action response and improved the sustain across all registers. The C3X typically sits between $22,000 and $28,000. It is the single most commonly recommended grand piano for serious buyers at the professional student and early career professional level. Level 5. The Recital Hall. The Yamaha C5X at 200 centimeters. The 2-meter mark is the informal industry threshold between a large studio grand and a small concert grand, and the C5X sits exactly there. At this size, the instrument starts developing the kind of dynamic range and tonal projection that allows it to fill a medium-sized recital hall without amplification. The soundboard area is significantly larger than the C3X, the bass bridge is longer, and the string speaking length in the tenor register, the range where most melodic piano writing lives, is noticeably more developed. Martha Argerich has used Yamaha instruments of this caliber for recordings and recital performances. The C5X sits in the $30,000 to $38,000 range. At this level, the instrument begins to have opinions about who plays it. Level 6. The Semi-Concert. The Yamaha C7X, 227 centimeters. This is Yamaha's largest production grand that isn't the CFX, and it exists in a strange and privileged territory. Too large for most private homes, too small for major concert halls, and perfect for everything in between. The C7X is used in mid-size concert halls, recording studios, and broadcast facilities worldwide. Its 227-centimeter body produces a bass register with genuine depth and a treble that rings with the clarity you need for recording. Yamaha's piano technicians consider the C7 series, in production since the 1970s, to be the most technically balanced instrument in their lineup, below the CFX. The 2016 CX revision refined the action geometry and improved the repetition speed without sacrificing the characteristic Yamaha brightness. The C7X lands between $45,000 and $55,000 new. It is the instrument professional pianists request for high-stakes recordings when a full concert grand isn't available, or when the room isn't big enough to justify one.
Level 7. The Concert Grand. Now, this is final boss territory right here. The Yamaha CFX, 274 centimeters. Introduced in 2010 after 15 years of development, the CFX is Yamaha's only concert grand. Their answer to the Steinway D, the Bosendorfer Imperial, the Fazioli F308. There is nothing above it. The CFX was developed specifically for international piano competition use. Its soundboard is hand-selected Sitka spruce, graduated by Yamaha's master craftsmen to resonate evenly across all registers. The action, which Yamaha calls the CFX action, was designed from scratch for the model, with a key weight and escapement geometry calibrated for competition-level repetition speed. The cabinet is built in Hamamatsu, Japan, in a dedicated facility separate from Yamaha's standard production line. The CFX has been the official piano of the International Chopin Piano Competition since 2010, the most prestigious piano competition in the world. It was the instrument Seong-Jin Cho played when he won in 2015. It is the instrument Martha Argerich has chosen for recordings. At Carnegie Hall, the Kennedy Center, and Suntory Hall in Tokyo, it is one of 2 instruments the artist is offered when they walk on stage. The CFX starts at approximately $180,000 and can exceed that in custom finishes or with the Disklavier Pro system installed. It is the best of what Yamaha provides, and one of the finest instruments ever built.